As far as I remember, ever since I was young, I was uncontrollable, wild, playful, and everything of such nature which grown up refers to as bad attribute to being a kid. I was a trouble to everyone around me. You know the so-called group who are famous in class and everyone wants to join that group no matter how rudely they behave. Yeah, I was in that group and being the naughtiest one, I was self-proclaimed leader. Although the group was very small. At this time, I was in elementary class, basically before first grade. So, our school had two establishments. The first building was for elementary classes and grade 1, and the other building was for grade 2 to grade 12. At the end of grade 1, a boy was transferred to my class from a different section. The reason for the transfer, as I understood, was teachers were unable to discipline him, and he too had his own ferocious group of friends who needed to be separated to teach them lessons. Nothing significant happened after that. I got promoted to grade 2. New building, new teachers, everything was overwhelming for me. Everyone scared us that the teachers were strict cause they teach delinquent seniors. I mean, yes, there were two extremely terrifying teachers. Looking into their eyes can scar you for life. So that boy I mentioned earlier, we became best friends. Months passed, we became the worst student in the class. We were told to sit on the last bench so that we do not disturb the class, and we both were fine with that. We sat there and chatted the whole day, and eventually our parents were summoned. Still nothing happened. 8 times after that in 3 months. This was my peak of disobedience. Months later, something happened. Maybe his parents got a job transfer. I don't know why he left the school. I literally became alone. Of course, I had my group, but I lost my only partner in crime. I got scolded a lot for being disobedient. One day, the teacher gave us work. I did not feel like doing it. So I took out my sketchbook and started drawing. I was trying not to talk to anyone and be as quiet as possible, sitting in the front bench trying to grab attention to show that I can be quiet if I want to. Some student complained to teacher of me not doing work as told. The teacher said, "Let him do his work, at least he is quiet." That was the first domino of a domino chain. I started drawing whenever I did not like doing work as told by the teacher. This kind of made somewhat of a decent impression of me. After being promoted to grade 3, I realized being quiet and calm is not that hard of a thing. And sometimes teachers do set an example and it kind of feels good. At this moment, I was still a self-proclaimed notorious group leader of the cool guys team. I became a hooligan during recess and a decent boy during class time when surrounded by teachers. As usual, my third grade was spent fighting with seniors and other sections. Things started to change drastically in my life after getting promoted to grade 4. Two members joined our group. I was weak in studies, not because I did not understand what I was taught, but more because I faced difficulty to study things by myself. So I started to become an obedient child as every parent expects to be to compensate for my studies. Teachers thought I was a good student. I was quiet, listening to studies, asking questions. There was some part of me who actually wanted to become what I pretended to be. Fifth grade, things accelerated and changed a lot. The two guys I mentioned earlier became the group leader. I was no longer famous. Some part of me was still trying to be who I was not, trying to compete with them. For some reason, I started to gain weight. People around me who were once interested in playing with me no longer wanted to play with me anymore. Sixth grade. I was desperate to make friends. I had no mobile, no social media accounts, nothing by which I could connect to my friends other than in school. Eventually, I watched my so called friends grow in popularity and they became good with their grades, or rather, they were popular as ever. It was I who was losing popularity. I became a so called good boy and not good at my educations. I got good remarks for my behavior in my report card as everyone wanted to see. We started playing soccer in recess. I was still in that group. People around me eventually realized I was not good at my reflexes. They demoted me from striker to defender. For us, striker was the most important position. I became overweight. Friends started to simply avoid me. I was still in the group, but I became that person who was selected at the last just because there was no other options. Grade 7, the two group leaders became arrogant. With a self-pride, they were ruthless with their word, only treating the best players in the team as equals. One day, out of nowhere, one of those two leaders started bullying me verbally because of my overweight. Verbal fights began to take place between me and those group leaders. It became a regular thing. I still played with them. I always wanted to be the so-called member of the cool guys team. Eventually, their friends started targeting me. Now, in this situation, I am alone and fighting a mental war against two delinquent group leaders and their friends. At this point of time, I started to lose all the self-confidence. I started to perform bad at maths, which I was previously very good at. Studies were hanging over just passing the subjects. I stopped talking to people. I tried my level best to get my old friends to talk to me as we did earlier. They creeped out seeing me this gluey. They drifted away even more. 8th grade. Something happened. Maybe I will never reveal what happened then. But things reached the peak. Until now, it was only among our group members who teased me. But now each and every classmate teased me because of that situation. Every day and every moment. I loved going to school, but after the day ended, I always wondered why I even went to school that day. I did not say anything to my parents, because first of all, I thought it was only a verbal teasing. And also, I thought it was not cool to complain to parents or teachers about any matter that I can solve by myself. I mean, I can deal with it. I became clumsy, introvert, and awkward person to talk to. I tried to avoid communication and eye contact. As a result of that, friends and teachers misunderstood me every often. During this time, there was only one person who treated me like who I was and helped me a lot to keep my sanity. This was the only person who knew the real me. And this is a story for some other day. Ninth and 10th grade, the most traumatic years of my life. I wanted to leave the school, but for some reason I wanted to stay. Eventually my score wasn't good enough to get science, but I wanted science, so I left the school. Things changed after that. I passed 12th grade. Years passed. I am now introvert, a loner. I have an inferiority complex. I have a minority complex. I have OCD. I have social anxiety. I have developed self-doubt. I have kind of developed dyslexia. I stammer while talking to unknown people or telling a story. Probably I am doing it now. It will be edited out. People still misunderstand me. And I am very awkward person to talk to. Basically, I could be a test subject to scientists. I am happy to be the person I am today. I mean, I have not become one of them, and I know how to treat a person respectfully, thanks to all those years. It does not matter to me anymore when anyone teases me nowadays. I just get on the ride with them and think they are just trying to have fun. The only thing I was unable to change about myself was the want to be in the cool guys team. I tried to cut all the contact with the people who I once knew back then, all toxic friendships, except a few. It feels good now. If you are in such similar situation, you should talk to someone close to you. Your teacher, your parents, your friends whom you can trust. You should take a stand for yourself. As for me, I thought that it was simply verbal bullying. And in my mind, I did not want to be the one who complains about everything. So after complaining to my teacher once or twice, I stopped. Not like I always listened and never said anything to them. I always responded to them in a sarcastic manner. To be honest, if someone else saw those incidents in their own perspective, they might think that it was not that big of a deal and they were just having fun. But for me, it was a bit traumatic experience. Hey, if you are still watching this video, thanks a lot. It really means a lot to me. This video was more of an intro and what kind of a person I am and what made me like this. Now that you know the general timeline of event, I will eventually bring individual videos on different topics and try to make it funny rather than serious. And also this was my first ever video that I animated. See you in the next video.